I've always liked storms at night. The kind where the rain hits your windows like handfuls of gravel, and the wind makes the trees sound like they're arguing with each other. It feels like the whole world is locked outside, and you're safe inside. That's what I thought anyway. This happened when I was 23, living alone in a small rental house at the edge of town. It wasn't rural exactly, but it wasn't busy either. My neighbors were spaced out, the street lights were weak, and after midnight the road outside might as well have been a hallway in an abandoned building. That night, the weather got bad fast. Around 11:40 p.m., the sky turned that ugly green-gray color, the kind you only see when the wind is about to snap something. The power flickered twice, then held. I remember because my TV did that little dim bright thing and I paused my show, waiting for the blackout that never came. The rain started like a soft tapping, then turned heavy. It sounded like someone was dumping buckets onto my roof. I made myself something warm, wrapped in a blanket, and sat on the couch with the lights low. I wasn't scared. Not even a little. Then I heard the knock. It wasn't loud. It was polite. 3 taps on the front door. At first, I honestly thought I imagined it. Storms make houses groan and pop. Water can hit the siding. Branches can scrape. But then it came again. 3 taps. I muted the TV and listened. The wind was howling, and in between the thunder, I could hear water rushing somewhere outside, like a gutter overflowing. And then, 3 taps again. My stomach did this weird thing, like it dropped and tightened at the same time. Nobody knocks on your door after midnight in a storm unless something's wrong. I stood up and walked to the living room window, pulling the curtain back just an inch. My porch light was off, but the street light across the road gave a little glow. No one was there. I stared for a few seconds, expecting someone to step out from the corner or the steps, but the porch was empty. Rain was blowing sideways. The bushes were bending like they wanted to crawl away. I let the curtain fall back and told myself maybe it was a branch. Then the knocking started again, but not on the front door. It was on the side of the house. Like someone was walking along the wall, tapping as they went. Tap, tap, tap. It moved, slow and steady, following the outside of my living room. I froze. You know when your brain tries to make excuses because the other option is too scary? I kept thinking it's hail. It's debris. But it didn't sound random. It sounded intentional. Like fingers. Tap, tap, tap. It stopped right where my living room window was. And then, right beside the glass, I heard the quietest whisper. So quiet I almost couldn't even tell it was there. Let me in. I felt my whole body go cold. I jerked away from the window like the glass had burned me. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. For a second, I couldn't even move. I was just standing there, listening to the storm and my own breathing. Then the whisper came again, just a little clearer this time. Please let me in. I grabbed my phone off the couch and turned on the flashlight. I pointed it at the window, but all I saw were sheets of rain and my own reflection. I didn't respond. I didn't say a word. I didn't even know what you're supposed to do when something like that happens. I slowly backed toward the hallway, thinking about locking myself in my bedroom, or calling the police. But what would I even tell them? Hi, someone is whispering outside my window in a storm, and I can't see them. And then it happened. The porch light clicked on. By itself. I stared at it shocked. That light had a switch inside the house, yes, but I hadn't touched it. And it wasn't motion sensor. It was an old, cheap porch light. You flipped it on or off. But now it was on, casting this yellow glow across my porch. And right there, standing at the end of my porch steps, was a person. At least, it looked like a person at first. They were facing my door, completely still, letting the rain soak them. They weren't holding an umbrella. Their clothes clung to them like wet paper. I couldn't see their face. Their head was tilted downward, like they were looking at their feet. I took one slow step closer to the window. My hands were shaking. I flashed my phone light through the glass. The figure's head lifted. And I swear, I could feel them looking right at me, even through the rain and glare. Their face was wrong. It looked like skin stretched tight, like it didn't fit. The mouth was too wide, pulled into a grin that was more like a tear. Then their hand lifted, and they pointed, not at me, at the side of my house. And I heard a new knock. Not from the front door. From my back door. My blood turned to ice. Because my back door opened into my kitchen, and it had a little window in it too. I stumbled backward, almost tripping over the corner of the couch. I didn't even think. I ran into the kitchen, keeping my phone light ahead of me. The back door window was smeared with rain, but I could still see outside. There was someone standing there. A different figure. This one was closer, pressed right up to the window like they'd been waiting. And they were smiling. Their teeth were too many. Like a mouthful of broken glass. They raised their hand and knocked, slow and deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. Then, in the same soft whisper, right through the door, they said, "We're cold." The storm outside cracked with thunder so loud it shook the dishes in my cabinets. For a split second, my kitchen lights flickered. And in that flicker, I saw another face. Not at the door. In the reflection of my microwave. Standing behind me. I spun around, phone light swinging wildly, but the kitchen was empty. But the whisper was closer now, like it was inside the walls. "We're cold. We're cold. We're cold." I ran back into the living room and locked the front door deadbolt, then checked every window. I pulled the curtains shut and turned on every light. I didn't care about my electric bill. I needed the house to feel less dark. But the knocking didn't stop. It moved around the house like something circling. Front. Side. Back. Tap, tap, tap. And every so often that whisper. "Let us in." I finally called 911. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone to my ear. When the operator answered, I tried to explain. I told them someone was outside my house. Multiple people. That they were knocking on every door and window. The operator asked for my address and told me officers were on the way. Then she paused and said something that made my skin crawl even more. "Sir, are you sure they're outside?" I swallowed. "What do you mean?" "We're getting interference on your line." "It sounds like whispering." I looked around my living room. The lights were bright, my TV was still paused, my curtains were closed. And yet, under her voice, I could hear it too. Faint. Close. A whisper that wasn't coming through the phone. It was coming from the hallway. I turned my head slowly toward the dark hallway leading to my bedroom. And there, at the far end, was my bedroom door. It was closed. But the handle was turning. Slowly. Like someone on the other side was testing it. I couldn't breathe. I stood there, frozen, holding my phone to my ear. The operator's voice sounded distant now, like she was far away. The handle stopped turning. Then, from behind that door, I heard 3 taps. Not on the door. On the inside of it. Tap, tap, tap. And a whisper clear as day. "Let me out!" At that exact moment, the power went out. Every light. The TV. The porch light. Everything. I screamed and ran to the front door without thinking, unlocking it and yanking it open. The rain hit my face like needles. The wind almost knocked me off my feet. But my porch was empty. The street was empty. No figures. No faces. No smiles. Just the storm. Then, behind me, inside my house, I heard the bedroom door open. Slowly. And footsteps, walking down the hallway toward me. Wet footsteps. Like someone was dripping on my floor. I didn't look back. I bolted off my porch and ran into the rain barefoot, slipping on the wet steps. I ran to my car, got inside, locked the doors, and started the engine. My headlights cut through the rain and illuminated my front porch. And that's when I saw them. Not one. Not two. But a line of them, standing under the trees across the road. All facing my house. All smiling. I sat there shaking until the police arrived about 6 minutes later. 2 officers walked through my house, checked every room, and found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. But one officer did find something. On my bedroom door. 3 wet fingerprints. On the inside of the door. Like someone had been trapped in there, and knocked to get out. I moved out 2 days later. I told myself it was fear, stress, a storm playing tricks on me. But I still think about what the operator said. "Are you sure they're outside?" Because sometimes, on stormy nights, when the wind hits my current apartment just right, I hear 3 taps from inside my closet door. I used to work late shifts at a grocery store when I was 19. I'd get off around midnight, sometimes later, and the drive home was about 25 minutes on a 2-lane road that cut through a stretch of woods. Normally, it was peaceful. At that hour, you might see 1 car every 5 or 10 minutes. But one night, there was a storm warning. The manager wanted to close early, but people still came in like they needed snacks more than they needed to stay alive. By the time I clocked out, it was almost 12:30 a.m. The rain was already heavy, and the wind kept slamming the automatic doors like they were angry. I walked to my car in the dark parking lot, holding my hoodie over my head. My shoes splashed through puddles. I got in, started the engine, and my radio immediately crackled with an emergency alert. Flash flooding possible. Avoid low-lying areas. Do not attempt to cross flooded roadways. I remember rolling my eyes a little, because I was young and dumb, and I thought, yeah, storms happen. The first 10 minutes of the drive were fine, just lots of water and branches scattered across the road. The trees bent over like they were bowing. Then I noticed headlights behind me. A car had pulled onto the road from somewhere, and it was following close. Too close. At first I thought it was just someone trying to get home too. But they didn't pass me, even when I slowed down to give them space. They stayed right there, steady. The rain was so thick my rearview mirror looked like it was underwater. But the headlights were clear. Bright, white, and fixed on me. I turned down a side road that cut through a residential area. It wasn't my normal route, but I thought if the car kept following, I'd know for sure. The headlights turned with me. My stomach tightened. I tried another turn. Then another. Each time, the car followed, never getting farther away, never getting closer. Just steady. Like it was tied to me. I told myself it could be coincidence. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. The neighborhood ended and the road narrowed again, leading back toward the woods. I realized I'd looped myself into an area I didn't know well. The rain was getting worse, and the storm was louder here, like the trees amplified it. My phone had one bar. I kept driving, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. Then I saw water across the road ahead. Not a puddle. A sheet of water flowing left to right like a shallow river. My headlights reflected off it, making it look black and glossy. I slowed down, remembering the warning. Do not attempt to cross flooded roadways. I stopped about 20 feet before it, staring. The water didn't look deep, but it was moving fast. Behind me, the other car stopped too. Their headlights washed over the back of my car, bright enough to fill my entire cabin. I couldn't see them, just those lights. For a second, either of us moved. Rain hammered my roof. Wind shook my car. Then the car behind me did something strange. Their headlights turned off. Just off. In the middle of the storm, on a dark road, they shut them off like they didn't need to see. My heart started pounding. I checked my mirrors. I couldn't see anything behind me now. Just darkness. Then my passenger door handle lifted. Not all the way, just enough to make that tiny clicking sound. Like someone outside was testing it. I froze, staring at the handle. It lifted again. My doors were locked. I always locked them when I got in. But that didn't stop the handle from moving. Slowly. Carefully. Then, right by my passenger window, something tapped on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. I turned my head barely. The window was covered in rain, but through the water, I saw a face. So close it fogged the glass. A pale face with wide eyes and a smile that looked forced, like it hurt to make. I screamed and hit the gas without thinking. My car lurched forward and splashed into the flooded part of the road. Immediately, I felt the pull. The steering wheel tugged sideways. The water was deeper than it looked, and the current grabbed my tires. My engine revved. My car started to drift. I tried to correct, but it was like driving on ice. Behind me, I saw headlights again. The car had turned its lights back on, and was following me into the water. That made no sense. Nobody would do that. My front tires found some traction and I pushed through, water splashing over my hood. My car made it to the other side, just barely, and I kept going, breathing hard. In my mirror, the other car entered the water, and then stopped. It didn't drift. It didn't struggle. It just sat there. Like it was parked. Right in the middle of the flooded road. The headlights stayed on, shining straight at me. And then, slowly, the car began to sink. Not drift away. Not get pulled. Just sink straight down like the road had opened up. The headlights disappeared under the water, and the darkness behind me became complete. I sat there in shock, still driving, barely able to breathe. I told myself I'd imagined it. The rain, the fear, everything. But then my radio crackled again, on its own, even though I hadn't touched it. And through the static, a voice came through. A man's voice. Soft. Close. Like he was sitting in the back seat. "Why'd you leave me?" I jerked my eyes to the rearview mirror. and for a split second I saw him. A soaking wet man sitting behind me, head tilted, smiling that same forced smile. Water dripped from his chin onto my seat. Then lightning flashed, and he was gone. I drove the rest of the way home without stopping. When I got there, I sat in my driveway with the doors locked, staring at my own shaking hands. The next morning I told my dad. He didn't laugh. He got quiet and told me something I still think about all the time. He said that road I crossed, it had flooded like that before. Years ago, a car went under during a storm. A man drowned inside. They never found the body. And people who drive that road late in storms sometimes say they see headlights behind them, following too close. Like something is trying to lead them into the water. I never drove that way again. But sometimes, when it rains hard and I'm alone in my car, my radio crackles, and I hear a soft voice behind me say, "Don't leave me." When I was a kid, my town had tornado drills all the time. We didn't get tornadoes often, but we got enough bad storms to scare people into preparing. My parents' house had a storm shelter out back. It was one of those metal doors set into the ground, with steps leading down into a concrete room. My dad kept it clean and stocked: flashlights, water, blankets, a first aid kit. It always smelled like damp cement and dust. When I was 16, a storm hit that forced us into the shelter for real. I remember the sky being almost black at 10 p.m. The wind was so loud it sounded like a train. The weather radio kept going off with warnings, and my dad finally said, "All right, we're going down. Now." We grabbed our dog, some snacks, and hurried outside with flashlights. Rain slapped my face. The backyard was a mess of moving shadows from the trees and the swinging porch light. The shelter door was slick with water, and my dad almost slipped opening it. We climbed down into that cold concrete room and shut the door behind us. The sound changed immediately. Outside was chaos, but inside, it was muffled. Like we'd gone underwater. My dad clicked on the lantern and the little room filled with yellow light. There were 2 benches, shelves, supplies, and in the back wall, an extra door. I stared at it. I'd been in that shelter dozens of times. I didn't remember a door back there. It was a plain wooden door, painted gray, with a knob and a deadbolt. It looked newer than everything else. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to react. My mom didn't seem to notice. She was rubbing the dog's ears, trying to calm him down. My dad was checking his phone for weather updates. I pointed. "What's that?" My dad glanced up, and his face changed instantly. He looked like someone had just punched him in the stomach. He stood slowly and walked toward it, lantern light flickering over his hands. He didn't touch it. He just stared at it like it was a snake. "That's not supposed to be there," he said quietly. My mom frowned. "What do you mean?" My dad swallowed hard. "This shelter, it only has one door." I felt my skin prickling. My dad walked back, grabbed the lantern, and held it up, inspecting the hinges. The door looked real. Solid. And then we heard it. A knock. Not from the shelter hatch above us. From the other side of the extra door. Tap, tap, tap. My mom's eyes widened. "Is someone down here?" My dad didn't answer. He just backed away from the door and stood between us and it. The knock came again. Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice, muffled but clear. Hello? It sounded like a woman. Calm. Friendly even. My mom took a step forward. Who are you? My dad snapped. Don't talk to it. My mom stared at him. To it? The voice on the other side sighed softly. Please, it said. Let me in. The storm's bad. My dad's face was pale. He looked like he was fighting panic. There's no one else down here, he said, more to himself than to us. The voice changed. It got sad. I know you, it said. My dad's head jerked up. His eyes locked on the door. The woman's voice continued, softer now. I know what you did. The dog started growling low in his throat, hair standing up. He backed away, pressing against my leg. My mom whispered, What is this? My dad didn't answer. The knocks returned faster now. Tap, 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 tap. Open the door, the voice demanded. My dad shook his head. No. The storm above us roared. Something slammed into our backyard fence. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then, in the middle of all that, the shelter lantern flickered. Once. Twice. And in that flicker, I saw the shadow of someone standing behind the extra door, but the shadow was wrong. It was too tall. And it didn't move like a person. It swayed like it was hanging. My mom grabbed my arm. We should go back up. This is... No, my dad said. We stay down here. The voice got closer, as if it was leaning into the door. I'm cold, it whispered, the same way someone whispers into your ear to scare you. Then we heard the deadbolts slide. From the other side. Click, clack. My mom screamed. My dad rushed forward and grabbed the knob, holding it tight. It can't, he muttered. It can't open from the outside. But the knob began to turn anyway, grinding slowly, like something strong was forcing it. My dad strained, muscles shaking. The lantern swung in his other hand, making the shadows dance wildly on the walls. Then, just when I thought the door would burst open, the knob stopped. The voice sighed. And said something that made my dad go completely still. You never buried me deep enough. The shelter fell silent except for the storm. My dad's grip loosened. His face looked empty, like his mind had gone somewhere far away. My mom whispered his name. He didn't respond. Then the knocking returned, this time not on the extra door. On the shelter hatch above us. 3 taps. Tap, tap, tap. My blood ran cold because it sounded exactly like the same knock. And then, from above, a voice called down. My dad's voice. Hey, open up. It's okay. The storm passed. My mom looked up, confused. But you're... My dad shook his head violently. Don't. The voice above continued, perfectly matching his tone. Come on. Let me in. The dog started barking like crazy, snapping at the air. My mom's eyes darted between my dad and the hatch. The voice above laughed softly. Then we heard something scrape. Like fingernails dragging across metal. Slow and slow and slow. My dad backed away from the ladder, holding the lantern like a weapon. We don't open anything, he said. No matter what. We stayed in that shelter for what felt like hours. The knocking above stopped. The storm gradually eased. Eventually, my dad checked his phone and saw the warning had expired. He waited another 10 minutes, just in case. Then he finally climbed the ladder and pushed the hatch open. Fresh, wet air rushed in. The backyard was a mess, but the rain had slowed. My dad climbed out first, scanning around with the flashlight. Then he told us it was safe. We climbed out and hurried inside. Later, when the sun came up, I went back out with my dad. He opened the shelter again. We climbed down. The extra door was gone. The back wall was solid concrete, like it had always been. My dad didn't say much after that. But years later, when I was older, he finally told me the truth. When he was a teenager, he used to hang out near an old quarry outside town. One night, a girl went missing after a party. People whispered about an accident. About someone panicking. My dad never admitted anything directly. But the way he stared at nothing while he told me, I knew. And sometimes I wonder if that door appears only when the storm is loud enough to hide a confession. Because my parents still have that shelter. And my dad refuses to go down there. Even for tornado warnings. This last one still messes with me the most because there's no easy way to explain it without sounding crazy. It happened 2 winters ago during a massive overnight storm. Heavy rain, wind, lightning, the whole thing. The kind of storm that makes the news and knocks out power in half the city. I live in an apartment complex. 4th floor. One way in, one way out. I always felt safe there. That night, I was up late because the thunder kept waking me. Around 1:15 a.m., I gave up on sleep and sat at my kitchen table scrolling on my phone, listening to the storm hit the windows. That's when every phone in the building went off at the same time. The emergency alert tone. That harsh, buzzing sound that makes your heart jump. My phone vibrated across the table. The screen lit up with an alert. I expected something normal. Flash flood warning, severe thunderstorm warning. But the alert didn't look normal. There was no header. No county name. No weather service stamp. Just a block of text. It read, "Do not open your door. Do not look outside. If you hear your name, do not answer." I stared at it, confused. Then I heard screaming down the hall. Not a long scream, but a sharp burst, like someone saw something horrible. Then footsteps. Running. A door slammed. My heart started racing. I got up and went to my peephole. I know what the alert said. But when you hear screaming, you don't just sit there like nothing's happening. I leaned close and looked through the peephole. The hallway lights were on. The carpet looked dark in spots from people tracking in rain. And there was a woman standing outside my neighbor's door across the hall. She was wearing a soaking wet coat. Her hair was plastered to her face. Her arms hung limp by her sides. She stood completely still, facing the door. Then she spoke. In a calm, gentle voice, like she was trying not to scare someone. "Emily, open the door." Emily was my neighbor. Sweet girl, maybe mid-20s. I talked to her a few times by the mailboxes. Her door didn't open. The woman's head tilted slowly, like she was listening. Then she said it again, a little louder. "Emily, open the door." I backed away from the peephole, my stomach twisting. Because the voice didn't sound like someone calling from the hallway. It sounded like it was coming from, right next to my ear. I looked at my phone again. The alert was still there. "If you hear your name, do not answer." The screaming down the hall had stopped. Now it was quiet except for the storm and distant footsteps above and below, People moving in their apartments, probably reading the same alert. Then my door handle rattled. Just once. Like someone tested it. My mouth went dry. I hadn't heard anyone walk up to my door. I hadn't heard footsteps. But the handle moved anyway. Then a voice, soft, friendly, came through my door. It sounded exactly like my mom. "Hey, it's me. Open up, okay?" My whole body went cold. My mom lives 3 hours away. She wasn't here. She couldn't be. I backed away from the door like it was dangerous. My hands were shaking. The voice continued, still in my mom's tone. "I got caught in the storm. I'm right outside. Please open up." I clapped my hands over my ears like that would help. It didn't. The voice felt like it was inside my head. Then my phone buzzed again. Another alert. This one said, "It is learning. Do not speak. Do not whisper. Do not pray out loud." I don't know why that last part hit me so hard, but it did. Because it made it feel like whatever was happening wasn't just some prank. It was something, hunting for sound. Outside my door, my mom sighed. Then she said my name. Not yelled. Not called. Whispered, like she was right on the other side. "Open the door, my name." I felt my knees go weak. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I just stood there, staring at my door, trying not to breathe too loud. Across the hall, the wet woman knocked on Emily's door. Tap, tap, tap. Then she changed tactics. Her voice turned into a child's voice. A little girl. "Emily. I'm scared." I heard a sob from behind Emily's door, muffled. Like Emily was crying quietly. Then I heard Emily's lock click. My heart dropped. The wet woman smiled. At least, I think it was a smile. I could only see from the angle of my peephole earlier. But I heard the door open. And then, silence. Not even a scream. Just a soft, wet sound. Like someone stepping into a puddle. Then Emily's door closed again. A moment later, the wet woman's footsteps moved down the hall, toward my door. Slow. Sticky. Wet. I stepped back into my kitchen, holding my phone like it could protect me. I turned off all my lights, not sure why, but I wanted to disappear. The footsteps stopped outside my door. Then came the knock. 3 taps. Tap, tap, tap. My phone buzzed again. "Do not look through the peephole." I froze. I had already looked. The voice outside my door switched again, this time into my own voice. "Perfect. Exact." It said, "It's okay. Open up." I felt tears prick my eyes from fear. My throat tightened. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But where could I go? Then, right above me, from the ceiling vent, I heard breathing. Slow, calm breathing. Like someone was lying above the ceiling tiles, listening. And then, through the vent, a whisper. "We can smell your fear." I covered my mouth to stop myself from making any sound. The knock on my door came again, harder. Tap, tap, tap. Then the handle turned. Slowly. Like the lock wasn't even there. My door didn't open, but I felt the pressure. Like something was pushing from the other side. Then my phone buzzed one last time. This alert was different. It said, "We are inside. Thank you for practicing." And then every phone in the building went silent. No more alerts. No tone. Nothing. Just the storm. The pressure on my door stopped. The footsteps moved away. And the breathing in the vent stopped too. I stood there in the dark for a long time, not moving, barely breathing. Eventually, the storm passed. I fell asleep sitting against my kitchen cabinets, phone still in my hand. In the morning, everything looked normal. No police. No emergency vehicles. No damage besides some fallen branches in the parking lot. But Emily didn't answer her door. I knocked. No response. I called the front office and asked if they'd seen her. They said something that still makes my stomach turn. Emily? There's no Emily in that unit. I told them I'd talked to her. I'd seen her. I'd gotten her packages once. They insisted the unit had been empty for months. When I checked the hallway camera footage with maintenance later, because I basically begged, they said it had glitched during the storm. The only clear frame they could pull was from 1:17 a.m. It showed the hallway. My door. Emily's door. And a wet trail of footprints leading from the stairwell, stopping right in front of my peephole. Like something stood there, inches from my face. And knew I was watching. Which story scared you the most? Comment below and subscribe for more true horror stories.